Hey guys, it's Silver Snorlax, and I am back with round 34, part 4 on our PSA return here. This is the last user who submitted. This actually belongs to a guy named Britt H, a guy who contacted me on Facebook actually. His round was 160 cards. It's the largest submission I've ever done. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to get through his entire submission in a single video. We'll break it up into a couple of parts, but he sent some really cool stuff. I guess he had a collection from a while ago and submitted pretty much everything to me, and I gave him a pretty good deal on his actual order. I'd never done an order that size before, so cool stuff. I really want to go over it. It's not too heavily mixed. It actually falls into a couple of subcategories, which is kind of nice for me because I actually cut him a deal on doing paperwork as well. So lots and lots of stuff that I can actually kind of show you in this particular round. So not a huge amount of variation, but really cool stuff regardless. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump into this particular round. I know you can't even see the top of these stacks, but each one's at least probably 60 cards each, maybe more. Actually, no, that wouldn't make sense. 60, 120, 180, so it'd actually be less than that. So we're going to go with like 40-some card stacks. There's a lot here. So we'll start it off with the first couple cards he submitted, the Venusaur from Expedition. And you'll see very common themes here. Lots of Expedition, lots of Japanese. He got a ton of high-grade cards, lots of Gem Mint 10 stuff. Again, that's because they're mostly Japanese cards. The quality on these was pretty good coming out of printing run, and these survived. I don't know how long he actually has had these for. A lot of these are dated 2001 as far as their actual printing dates and printing runs. So they've been around for at least 15 years. They're quite old, but they're in immaculate condition. I think his whole order, actually most of the grades were 9 or 10. I think he got something like 2 8s in the entire order. I can't fully remember myself. But I remember when I finally got a chance to sit down and take a look at the grade report for this particular round, I was just kind of astonished by how many Gem Mint 10s immediately popped up. He was actually the first person I had copied on the actual order form to PSA. So I just kind of saw like this list of 10s and went, wow, and continued to scroll through and went, wow, we didn't score below a 6 anywhere on this whole order. The whole submission was very good. There's this first 9, as a matter of fact, is Magby. So it's been a trip. This whole round has been a trip for me, to say the least. So lots of cool stuff. This actually wasn't even bad to process in terms of paperwork either. I've slowly started to move into online submissions as they tend to be a little bit easier. I'll talk about the online submission form part of it. It is easier to use and to utilize than to sit there and handwrite everything out, which is the old way I used to do it. I used to do it all the time, and even on smaller rounds I'll continue to do stuff like that. But the online submission form, it's not bad. I like it. The only problem is if you don't type cards in a certain way, they do not show up in the drop-down menu that PSA has available for you, and it just sucks. I really wish there was like something you could choose for like subcategory. Like if you're looking at all of baseball or all of football or all of Magic the Gathering or all of Pokemon, it would just kind of lump everything together. That would make life so much easier. I've learned there are a couple of tricks to it. You have to type things in a certain way. Sometimes you have to actually look up the graded card itself. So if I have this card raw, I'll have to type in PSA graded Ampharos Expedition into like a Google search, read the actual label, type it in through the online submission form. And unless I type it in a very certain way or particular way, it won't show up, and it won't show up in system. But that's really my only complaint with the online ordering. It's easier to catch mistakes. It's a little less messy. The old theory was that PSA actually processes faster if you do online submission forms. I've found that it's not true. All of my rounds over the past several months, online or handwritten, have taken the full turnaround time. Matter of fact, with round 35, which I have boxed up and ready to showcase to you guys, that actually took past the estimated turnaround time. That kind of drove me nuts. but I got a fun story attached to that. We'll actually talk about that and cover that once we actually hit round 35. The focus for these couple of videos is round 34, of course. So not trying to take away too much from the cards that I'm showcasing here. Obviously, you can see there's a lot of Expedition. Pretty much every card is a holo. They're very high grade. They're great cards. They really are. Typically, when I sit here, I talk about, like, you know, the artwork and stuff on them. However, in the case of Expedition, a handful of these cards that Britt set in, they're all kind of very similar, at least in terms of the artistic fashion and whatnot. They all come out of the same set, so they all have a particular look to them. So that's why I won't focus too much on the artwork. I will chat a little bit here and there. For example, I really like this Clefable. It's different to see the Pokemon kind of from behind. It's nice. I like seeing Pokemon at angles, like this Dragonite coming in at an angle. To me, is slightly more artistic than just the kind of raw portrait, if you will. I like that quite a bit. So really nice Dragonites from this set. Expedition Tyranitar. That's a terrifying looking Tyranitar. That is the coolest Tyranitar I think I've ever seen. Skamori. Continuing right along, new set here, Town on No Map, which I'm actually not familiar with. When I put up his order, or wrote up his order rather, I tried to separate these by series as best I could, by individual card series as best I could. So these are coming pretty much in order. That's a beautiful Arcanine, by the way. And we are almost through that first stack of cards, slowly moving through it, and we will try to keep these videos varied up a little bit. We'll try to cut them so they don't get too long, but I do want you guys to get the chance to see all the artwork, each set. High grade cards are always something fun to look at, always interesting to look at. And this particular order has a ton of them. Alrighty. So we'll be concluding this part of this particular part, I should say, for round 34 in just a couple minutes here. I do just want to show you a couple more cards. That's an awesome Nidoking. I love first generation stuff. Love it. Absolutely gorgeous. First generation Pokemon are just a lot of nostalgia for me. I think that's a big part of it. I know when Pokemon Go came out, that was huge, not just for the community in general, but for those of us who've been around Pokemon for so long. You know, I've been doing this since I was about, well, I shouldn't say PSA related stuff, but I've been into Pokemon since I was about 9, kind of my late ninth year of age. You know, was into it hardcore like everybody else was in the late 90s, early 2000s. Took a little break, did a Yu-Gi-Oh stint for a while, kind of quit Pokemon altogether, and then slowly came back to it once I realized, you know, for me, Yu-Gi-Oh, they set up ban lists, and that killed pretty much the entire deck I was running, so that kind of ended it for me. Held on to my cards, but that was about it, as I collected both Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh, but I kind of slowly came back to it, and my brother got involved in a very large tournament a couple years later. The Journey Across America tournament held in 2010. That's kind of when I really ramped back up. That was when I really got into it full time. And yeah, the rest was kind of history for me. Another awesome Tyranitar, by the way, just FYI. So yeah, that was kind of it for me. That's what brought me back, and I love doing it. To this day, I love doing it. Unfortunately, my personal life does not allow me to do a lot with Pokemon anymore, and it doesn't. And it's not just Pokemon. You guys aren't taking the brunt of this. Don't get me wrong. When I have to disappear for a couple weeks, my family suffers. I suffer. My father actually celebrates his 60th birthday in about a week, and I'm not available for it. I mean, like, that's that's kind of the sacrifice I've been making as of late, and that trend hasn't really stopped or ended by any means. So it's rough on me, and that's part of why I know I've discussed it in previous videos, why I'll be moving on from it. But for now, got to continue the job I'm doing until I eventually talk to some recruiters and whatnot. So, all right, didn't mean to get too personal there. I do want to kind of finish this particular bit up. We're actually going to move into some English cards in the next part, so we'll go ahead and we'll cut it right here. It's been just over 10 minutes, so we'll cut, and we'll see you in part 5. New upload tomorrow, guys. Thanks for watching.